So today, the presentation will be facilitated by Kathy and Jerry. Kathy and Jerry are the co-founders of Worldview Intelligence and co-authors of Building Trust and Relationship at the Speed of Change. Worldview Intelligence provides a great framework for engaging conversation, solving issues collaboratively, and storytelling. The work they help create, they create connections, bridge differences, and inspire hope for the future. Kathy lives in Nova Scotia on Canada's East Coast, and Jerry lives in Minnesota in the US. All right, so without further ado, I will hand it over to them.
Great, thank you, Chrissy. Welcome to each of you, and I've been also with Corey for a number of months now, trying to put this all together. So we're just really delighted to be able to welcome you to this space and also to welcome our storytellers. I'm just going to take a brief minute to go over the flow of our 75 minutes together, and then Jerry's going to introduce the storytelling process. So we're going to just take a few minutes here in this welcoming frame, and then we're going to invite 3 storytellers to tell their story, and they'll each have about 7 minutes to tell their story. So we invite you to really listen with attention as you're listening to their stories and kind of see the places where it connects to you. Then we're moving to some small group conversations. So you will have an opportunity to chat with a couple of other people about what you heard in the stories that really resonates for you or that touches you. And then we'll hear a little bit out from what it was that you shared in your small groups. And then finally, we'll do a little wrap up and a checkout. And we like to work really hard at keeping to time. So the plan is that we will finish 15 minutes past the next hour.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. And thanks, Chrissy, for and to you and Corey and the network for hosting this event. And welcome to all of you that are here, and looking forward to hearing the stories from our 3 storytellers. Just a quick note, when you are the storyteller, please put your camera on so we can see you as you share your story. That would be wonderful. A few weeks ago, Kathy and I and Corey and Chrissy met with the 3 storytellers just to talk about the process a bit. And the invitation was to think of stories as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we offered an idea for content for those 3 parts of a story. And the beginning is the opportunity to describe a challenge that the storyteller has faced or is facing right now. The middle is to talk about what they're doing to work with this challenge that they're experiencing, or what they did do. And the ending of the story then is what did they learn through the experience, or what are they learning now as going through the experience. So there's this beginning, middle, and end around something that's very alive for the storyteller, either in a past experience or they're dealing with right now. And so that's kind of, the structure that they'll all be following. And Chrissy, I'm not sure who's our first storyteller, but we're ready to go. So Patricia.
I think actually we will have Tatiana start today. So Tatiana, whenever you are ready. And Tatiana it's Tatiana Smith from Costa Rica, and the story she will be sharing with us is Making It Possible.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity. I hope I inspire you with a little bit. I work at a private hospital in Costa Rica. The name is Hospital Metropolitano. We are, as I said, private hospital, and we have a little bit of everything that a hospital requires, but our hospitalization area have separate rooms, right? So we do not have an isolation area. So for COVID, we created a protocol because all hospitals required was to do it. And so far, we did not have much patient in recovery. We just have patient coming for the ER, and then we stabilize them, and then we let them go to some other place. But at this end, like last month, we suddenly had to create a COVID area. We did not have a choice. They just told us these patients are definitely coming here, so we have to prepare for them, because the patient was already customers for us, and they just got more complicated. So in our protocol, we're supposed to make the COVID area in the ICU, which is the unit that have the best structure for that. But at that moment, our COVID area, our ICU area was very full. So we had to create another area. So we had to run. We had 12 hours to create this area, and we transformed our first floor, which is our maternity area, to be our COVID area. So we had a lot of challenge. We really had to put ourselves to be creative and communicate with other departments to get it done. It was done. It was successful. Our patient was recovered there for almost 2 weeks, and then they left well. Difficulties that we saw, it was, well, the time, the physical structure from the building, and that we did not have all the supplies that we need at the moment. But with the help of all the departments, we got it done. And I don't know. Things that we learn is that teamwork really can get you through anything. And we had to challenge our communication skills to get it done, everything in that short space of time. Things that we saw that was strength is that all the team was really willing to do whatever they could. Other thing that was helpful is that we had staff that were have the experience of being working with this type of patients in other hospitals. So even though they are new staff for us, they have experience already, so that also helped us get through. We had to overcome other difficulties, like creating other ways to communicate with them because they were separate from us, but we work it out. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if I did it well.
You did it very well, Tatiana. I have one question for you, which would be, what about all of that process touched you or inspired you the most?
Sorry, for some reason I lost connection.
Yeah, no worries. So I was just asking, what about that whole process touched you or inspired you the most?
Well, in this, we thought we were prepared because we had 2 years of pandemic. So we thought we had everything done, or we knew everything about COVID, but experiencing, living it, like creating and having the patient so close for a longer time really teaches us that we was not really prepared. There was a lot of people was afraid, very afraid, even though they had training. And so we had stuff that were burned out, because the one that was not afraid was the one we had to be running up and down all the time with this. So we learned that we really we should not suppose, you know, and that we should do drills for anything, you know, just for the people to feel more comfortable and realize what we need. It was challenging because, as I said, we had to do all that in 12 hours. And then, of course, the following 2 days was progressing, seeing what had to be done and to change it immediately, because we already have the patient there. So there was no chances for mistakes. It was really challenging. And it made me feel good, because at the end, everybody was running because we wanted the best for the patient. Yeah, this patient, I should say, is a patient that have cancer, and it was in therapy for cancer. So his immune system was very low.
Mm.
So we had to extreme everything.
Mm. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Welcome.
We do have one question. Tatiana, what support was provided for your nurses?
We had like the directors board, was we had their support to do whatever we needed to do. I should say that actually the team was led by nurses, so that's why it was, for me, it was so important. And at the end, usually nurses sometimes, they don't want to listen because they want to do everything that doctor says, but in this occasion, they were fully doing everything that the nurses staff said, and try to support us, giving us whatever we need. So they grant us a free way to work out everything. So it went well.
Wonderful. Kathy, Jerry, do we have anything else?
Not at the moment, not for Tatiana. Thank you so much, Tatiana. It was lovely.
You're welcome.
So who's up next, Chrissy?
Sorry, I was muted there. We have Nada Melendez-Duke, and her story will be go over, go under, go around, or go through, but never give up. And Nada is from Canada.
Good morning, everyone. I woke up this morning to our first snow of the season, so you might be able to see behind me in the window. It's a little bit white, but being November, we expect it in Canada at this time of the year. I am a registered nurse and a clinical nurse educator working out of Waka, Saskatchewan. So I'm a prairie small town girl, lived and worked in rural most of my life. Small town hospitals, acute and emergency. I support education needs for our acute and emergency nurses at present. And I've also worked at our large trauma center for a couple of years in Saskatoon. I've always loved nursing. I've spent most of my career in rural. Some people think that working in rural is easy, but those of us who have worked it know differently. Rural nursing is a specialty in itself. One of my good friends works in a large urban emergency department and tells everyone, I'm not smart enough or brave enough to work rural. I know she would rock it, but she recognizes the lack of resources and the great deal of challenges we face working in a rural setting. For the first several years of my career, I did not have access to an educator, and I had very few educational opportunities. I always loved attending educational events and committed myself to lifelong learning. When my manager announced that she was creating positions for rural clinical nurse educators and recommended that I apply, I was ecstatic. Although I didn't know it at the time, I had found my niche. My heart is in nursing education, especially for rural. I felt privileged to have been selected from many applicants as one of the successful candidates for these jobs. As access to education had always been a challenge for both my manager and me, Pat had a vision that the new CNEs would be able to run and teach the higher level courses on their own, both saving tons of money and increasing accessibility for rural nurses. And so the journey to become instructors in the Trauma Nursing Core Course, or TNCC, Advanced Cardiovascular Life Support, or ACLS, and the Canadian Triage and Acuity Scale, or CTAS, began. Pat tasked me with seeking out opportunities to attain my TNCC instructor status for my coworker and me. I found 2 individuals in the province that could potentially help. Protocol dictated that I start with my own northern area. I applied for the instructor course, and although I met all of the requirements, I was told that the instructors were chosen based on their experience in larger emergency departments or air ambulance. And she had to ensure there were enough courses for the new instructors to teach. When I informed the course director that our goal was to offer TNCC in our rural sites, she told me that I had to teach for at least 5 years before I could teach independently. So basically, because I was a rural nurse, it would be very difficult for me to attain my instructor status. However, what she didn't know about me is that my biggest motivator is being told that I can't do something. The tougher it gets and the bigger the challenge is, the more determined I get. After receiving a firm no from the north, I reached out to Jerry in the south to see if he could help me. He had been hearing about our difficulties from our national board, NENA, or the National Emergency Nurses Association. After we had run into a brick wall in the north, he thankfully agreed to help me. Once I was able to take my TNCC instructor course and teach TNCC for the first time, I was hooked. I taught many courses under the excellent leadership and mentorship of Jerry. Jerry knew that my ultimate goal was to become a course director and be able to run TNCC independently for rural staff. Before he retired, he helped me reach this goal. I have a similar story about advanced cardiovascular life support, ACLS. Everyone had enough instructors. No one in Saskatchewan is running instructor courses, yet it was insanely expensive to have the instructors come to us to teach. And the courses were usually held on weekends, which made it difficult for staff to attend. If nurses have weekends off, they prefer to spend them with their family and friends and not at education. As a result, a coworker and I had to travel to another province to take our instructor course. As with everything I do, I strive for perfection. As these instructor courses were so difficult to obtain, I felt privileged that I was finally able to teach them, and also that I had something to prove to those who don't think I was qualified to do this. I was finally able to run these courses for my staff independently during the week and at a much reduced cost. I am very thankful to Jerry for never giving up on me and for seeing the potential in me. During the time when I was going through these struggles, word spread to our NENA board. At the national conference in 2011, they pulled me aside to speak to me and give me their words of encouragement. This meant the world to me that they were behind me 100% and would ensure that someone would assist me. I vowed that I would not let this happen to anyone else and would always help people if they needed it. Then one day, this thing called karma came knocking at my door in the form of an email, asking if I could please run a TNCC course in our large urban center of Saskatoon. The person that used to run these courses could no longer run them. It's funny how things come full circle, and I was asked to replace the very person that denied me in the beginning because of my perceived lack of skills and qualifications. Of course, I said yes. Over the last 10 years, I have attained instructor status in TNCC, ACLS, and CTAS. I am an instructor trainer in TNCC and CTAS, meaning I can run instructor courses, and have taught the majority of new instructors in our province in the last 5 years. I also achieved instructor and instructor trainer status in the sister course to TNCC, the Emergency Nursing Pediatric course, or ENPC. I find it quite ironic that I'm now known as the TNCC, ENPC, and CTAS guru in our province, and everyone now comes to me for assistance and guidance. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to become involved in our national board, NENA, as a member of our International Course Administration Committee, who's responsible for the dissemination of TNCC and ENPC across Canada. This is the same committee who helped me 10 years ago, and I am so very grateful that I've been given the chance to give back. I have learned so much throughout this whole experience. My manager has always told me to say yes whenever I can, and that it's more about the people than the work that we do. We truly are helper people at work, and this experience has only made me more passionate to help others whenever I can, so they don't have to go through the same difficulties that I did. And remember that just because you're from rural doesn't mean you don't have the knowledge or experience that the city folks do. Sometimes you have even more. My most recent goal is to attain ACLS and PALS instructor trainer status, as there is a dire need for this in our province. I'm running into roadblocks with the organization that runs these courses, but that, my friends, is a story for another day.
Nada, that's lovely. I love the karma aspect of that story. And then I just also really love your persistence in pursuing your dreams. I mean, that's what it really sounds like to me, and your passion. So that's just a fantastic story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
All right. Are we going into our third?
we are going into our third.
All right, perfect. So next we have Patricia Gilley from the United States, and her story that she'll be telling is "The Road Taken, It Has Made All the Difference." So Patricia, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry for the technical delays in getting online. So thank you for your patience. My name is Patricia Gilley. Everyone calls me Trish. I practice in rural county in Rockingham County in North Carolina. It's at the southern border of Virginia. It's a fairly large county, and we have lots of disparities and lots of underserved and unserved populations in the county, and that's where I serve. I have been doing this nursing in the community now for about 12 years. My story starts, as you heard, the story is "The Road Taken, and It Has Made All the Difference." And this is a personal story that I'm very passionate about. I was practicing nursing in a large hospital near us, and was doing cardiac step-down nursing, and had been there for over 26 years. I am very much, at times, a creature of habit and loved the cardiac nursing. However, due to an injury, I was no longer able to work at bedside nursing any longer, and it was a huge nudge and a higher power that kind of gave me the push to look in the other direction that has brought me to where I'm at today. In that time, I was unknowingly being prepared to work with the populations that I serve now. I was not able to work for about 3 years. In that time, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what direction to go in, where I wanted to work, but I was drawn to a form of nursing that I had heard from a friend. Some may not have ever heard of it, but it's either congregational nursing, or a lot of people know it as parish nursing. And it is a board recognized certification that you can get. However, there was nothing like that in the county that I was serving. So I just started looking online, and things just kind of started to fall in place. There was a course that I could take, and I started just by doing that on my own. And registering for that course was met with some other nurses that work in the Guilford County area that had already started a similar program, and sought me out and said, you know, "We've heard you're doing this on your own. What are your thoughts?" Well, the county that I live in was a large textile manufacturer community, and a lot of those jobs left the county, and that left a lot of people in poverty and not knowing where to turn. And I was sharing that this is needed in our county. We need to have someone out in the community that can sit down and talk to these patients. So in that transpired that we were able to get grant funding and started a program. So I was able to start that program in 2011 with another nurse with no resources, no connections. And we just rode all over the county, talking to people and connecting to people and trying to form those bridges so that we would have resources for the people that we would meet. In that, I have made so many contacts and so many resources, and it has been such a blessing in my life. This is not a job that I go to. This is a ministry that I look at, that I have the privilege and the ability to really practice the true art of nursing, that I can just be present and give the person that I'm sitting with as much time as they need. A lot of the patients that I serve have not ever had anyone to listen to their story, to listen to what they need, and to try to help connect them and make them feel like they are important. I love doing what I do. I spend a lot of time, our disparities are transportation, patients getting to appointments, following up appointments, a lot of education, um, just using my skills in different ways and just trying to connect and search for resources for them. It has truly made all the difference, I hope, in many of the people's lives that I have encountered. And it has truly, really impacted my life. It is in the hospital, as you all know, if you have practiced in the hospital, it is you go from one task to another. You do not have really the luxury of the time to just sit and listen to the families and to the patients and to see the other side of why they're not taking their medications, why they're not following up with their visits. You can see on the other side now that it's between paying their rent or buying food versus their medications. And I just love trying to help problem solve those situations for them so that they can get the care and the services that they needed. So thank you for inviting me to speak. I am so honored to be a part of this group, and it's a lot of wonderful individuals, and I look forward to learning more about you all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story, Trish. I know there is a question for you, so I'll get to that in just a second, but I just wanted to say like how valuable and important it is to follow these nudges when they show up. And I love that your career was turned in a completely different direction after, a period of hardship that you described there. So that's, I just, kudos to you. And the question in the chat box is, how did you go about getting your grant and what agency did you apply for it?
Okay, I actually did not write the grant. We had someone who was very talented in grant writing. And we actually the grant first went through the Duke Endowment. That's a big philanthropic agency that does a lot of grants in our area. And it was a 2-year grant. So after that, we were able to show the hospital system and other donors the cost savings to the hospital of preventing ER readmissions. I think I just received a card that we had saved out in the county at about $500,000 with the nurses that are serving out in the county, using Medicaid dollars to offset what a nurse this time would be. So we've saved a lot of ER admissions, had some life-saving things happen. So I can't really speak to how they searched for the grant. I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
So a comment from Audrey also in the chat box says, Trish, I know you made a big difference in the life of the janitor for a local school who did not have insurance. And this question, could you share about the difference you made with helping him get services? So
absolutely. And thank you, Audrey. Yes, was actually reached out from a nurse that Audrey works with at a local school here that he did not have insurance. She had checked his blood pressure and he was very hypertensive. I also work with a program called Care Connect. Care Connect is also a grant funded program, kind of ironically through Duke Endowment. And we're tasked at helping those with no insurance in our county access to medical care. So we have a network of 3 providers that we have in our network. And we refer, they get a choice actually, where they've not had a choice, they have a choice of the 3 different providers they can. I do case management for those. So we actually set up their first appointment after they enroll with us, and before they leave, they know their appointment. I'm able to follow up with those patients and see how their visits went. He's actually enrolled in a pilot program that we're doing now. It's remote patient monitoring for hypertensive patients. There's an LPN in our clinic that is doing health coaching with those patients. I kind of just monitor everyone's blood pressures and make sure there's no trends or escalations that need me to contact the providers regarding. But that program is doing actually very well. We're piloting that with one local clinic right now. We're getting ready to expand to other clinics. So we've been able to teach him about his medications, about diet, about exercise, following the DASH diet, just stress relief, coping mechanisms to deal with stress. And actually his blood pressures they're doing so much better, and he's doing really well. Actually, through our program too, we've connected him to social work interns that are available because they're paired with me, a congregational nurse out in the field, to do integrated care. And so they're helping with coping techniques for him also. So he's doing great, doing much better.
That's fantastic. I'm sure that there are probably some other questions, but we really wanted to create an opportunity for you all to be in conversation with each other in some smaller groups. And you'll have the opportunity to ask further questions before we close. And Chrissy's also at the end of this going to talk about how the storyteller stories can be shared more and how you could also share your own stories before we close here today. So we're going to invite you now we're going to put you into small groups, but there's an invitation associated with that. And, having listened, and I'm going to put this in the chat box. In fact, why don't I do that right now? Having listened to these stories, what's in your heart right now? What are you inspired by? What are you taking away? And the storytellers are actually going to be in their own little group so they can talk about their experience of having shared their stories here in this forum, so we can all learn from that. And the rest of you will have a chance to just really think about what you heard and how that might impact you and or your work. So Chrissy, and you'll be in those small groups for about 20 minutes.
All right, I will start the groups now. All right, I think everyone is back now. So Sherry and Kathy, if you'd like to get started. And actually, if you're all comfortable, feel free to share your cameras now that we're done sharing our stories, and so we can see everyone's faces.
Yeah, please do turn the cameras back on so that as we share as a large group, we can kind of see each other. Well, lovely. You're all on mute, and you can just stay on mute until you might be speaking, and that would be great. And what we'd love to do is, as Chrissy put in a little message to you, is to hear a little bit from each group, including the storytellers. The storytellers will go last. But a little bit from each group about your conversation, and particularly something you might like to share out, because I'm sure you had a rich and wide-ranging conversation. And so, whomever wants to go first, and the person that won the door prize, just go off mute and share out. We love to hear from you.
Jerry, I can go first. My name is Ann Pithan, and I'm from South Dakota. And I was in a group with Rebecca and Patty. And it was just so, I loved your words. It was just a very rich conversation about really discussing the challenges that are so unique to rural nursing. And I guess what was kind of the most helpful is kind of recognizing that we are all kind of experiencing the same level of challenge. We didn't have a lot of solutions, but sometimes it's just kind of comforting to know that within rural nursing, we're experiencing similar challenges.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Thanks, Ann. Really appreciate that. It is really amazing how through broad geography, when you're dealing with people, many similar things show up in our humanity and who we are. So thank you. Someone else, please.
Well, this is Pam Stewart Foss from upstate New York. I think there was only one other person in the room with me, and she had to leave, but she was a nurse midwife from Costa Rica. And so we talked a little bit about her practice and how nurse midwifery and nursing go along in that country. I just want to say I really enjoyed the stories, and if Patricia wants to have a venue for publication, I think the Online Journal of Rural Nursing and Healthcare might be a place. And if she wants to email me or somebody give her my email address, I'd love to talk to her a little bit more, because she has the outcome measures of what happened. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pamela. Appreciate that. And it is nice. That was one of the lovely things about Tricia's story, was providing some way to measure impact. And so another story group, or another group. Are we out of groups, Chrissy?
Oh, I think we might have a few more, but if no one wants to share, we could have storytellers back on as well.
So those of you that were storytellers and in your own little group, anything you might want to share out with the rest about the experience of creating your story. And part of why we would welcome your reflections in the work that you did is because we want to hear from more nurses and more stories. And we want to make the possibility of hearing those stories, easy and an easy flow. And so it kind of is a first experiment here. The network hopes over time to have stories from lots of nurses on the website. So what your experience was could help us learn something. So Trish, Tatiana, Nada, welcome any thoughts you might have.
Hi, it's Nada. So we did a lot of talking, and we're from 3 very different parts of the world and do 3 very different things in nursing, 3 very different jobs. But we had discussed how nurses are very strong, resilient, innovative, and persistent. How we don't take no for an answer. We don't let fear hold us back, but we let it inspire us. And I think for me, in creating my story, it's a story I've had in my head, of course, forever. And it's kind of defined who I am in this job. And it was very fun, I think, to be able to share it with people and with different people from around the world. And I will just, if Patricia or Tatiana have anything to share about creating their stories or what it meant to them, I think this process was very easy. You made it very easy for us. You gave us all the information we needed to be able to share our stories. It was a great opportunity for me, because usually I just work within either my little province or my little country. And so to connect with nurses from around the world was a really rewarding experience. So thank you.
Thanks, Nada. Trish or Tatiana, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I agree with Nada. We were speaking. It was really nice sharing. This experience is really new, but I enjoyed it. It's challenged you a little bit, and you don't realize that it's maybe sometimes it looks so easy to speak, but when you have to create something like this, you have to think a little bit more. But it was really nice to share over a daily basis can inspire other ones. Mm-hmm. So I really thank you for the opportunity.
Lovely, wonderful. Thank you, Tatiana, for your story. Trish, anything to add before Kathy wraps up here? And Chrissy?
Yes, so thank you again for the opportunity. I really enjoyed being in the room with Tatiana and Nada and discussing our commonalities as well as our differences, and how we did persist and overcome challenges that we were facing. But it's difficult to, I might always enjoy public speaking, but I wanted to welcome this opportunity. I think we all have stories. It was a little difficult choosing, whether I wanted to take a professional story of a patient's challenge that I helped work through, or something that was really personal for me. And I decided to go with what was really personal, because it's what has brought me to the place that I am now and the work that I'm doing. So without that happening and those nudges that I received, then I wouldn't be here in the community helping the patients that I serve. So thank you for that opportunity to tell my story.
Great. Thank you, Trish. We really, and Nada and Tatiana, we all really appreciated your stories. And now Kathy's going to do a little wrap up here.
Well, actually, sorry, go ahead. No, it's really Chrissy who's going to do the wrap up and point you in the direction of where else you can go to share your stories. This has been recorded, as you know, the main plenary anyway, and we're hoping that'll get posted up there so you can go back and listen again to the stories or be inspired to tell your own story. And I also just want to thank our 3 storytellers. I know we had a bit of a technology glitch for some of us getting in, and I wanted to say, Trish, I was one of those people too. And so you just take a breath when you arrive and then go right into it. And also, Tatiana, I wanted to say, like, going first as a storyteller is always the biggest challenge because as we saw here, this is very common that the first person tells a story very, very quickly, and then the next storytellers take a bit more time. And so I was happy to be able to ask a couple of questions to help bring out more of your story. But you're just like, it was delightful. So thank you all, and over to Chrissy.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kathy and Jerry, for facilitating today. You did a wonderful job, and more importantly, to our storytellers and our attendees, we've loved having you all here and for sharing. So we would like to actually open it up. We have GRNEN has a brand new networking tool that we have, and this is there's no fee for this, and so we would love for all of you to sign up for this, or maybe you already have an account, and to go onto the open forum and share your story, whether it's through a video, artwork you have, or if you just want to write something and just share it with all of the network. We would love to hear from you. I'll put a link in the chat just so you have that, and please, feel free to message me with any questions you have on that. And, if you would like to create a video with us, I'll send out a follow-up email as well. And I would love to even set up a time individually for a Zoom, and we can record and post that on there. If you'd like to share your story, we'd love to hear from all of you. You all have such interesting stories, so and we love hearing them. So thank you all for coming, and I'll actually just share the screen so you can kind of get a feel for what the networking tool is. So this is our networking tool, and I'll go to the open forum under the communities, and you can kind of just see, and you don't even have to just share your story, but other things you'd like to share, any research you're doing. This is for all everyone in the rural nursing community. We love hearing from all of you and just sharing different things from globally from everyone. So we hope that you can take advantage of this. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I will also put my email in the chat box. And again, thank you all for coming today. We appreciate your time, and else to say, but again, thank you for coming.
And Chrissy, just
have a wonderful.
Chrissy, before you go, just for everyone, we have 3 other storytellers telling stories this afternoon at 3 p.m. Central Time. You may not have signed up for it, but if something has opened up in your calendar and you want to hear 3 new stories, join us.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you all for showing up.
First time, that's where you go. All right.
Thank you.
Bye for now.